going into this issue with the government and a lot of the issues that people are facing right now with their mortgages being greater than the value of the land and the home, and going specifically into this issue with the entitlement programs where the biggest chunk of the debt is with the Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. How do you foresee this being resolved, if you do see it being resolved? And as far as how this affects the people, I mean, would you say that the people are really prepared for what's coming? And are people relying too much on these entitlement programs and government support? What do you think about this?
You know, I think the light bulbs are just beginning to blink.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent people have falsely been relying in the past on that government hand that they've been feeding for most of their careers. I think a lot of people can see the writing on the wall right now, which is if you want a hand, look at the end of your arm, because there's no hand coming from somewhere else. And what a lot of people don't understand, and I think this awareness is growing, but perhaps not fast enough, is that all this is interrelated. When the government is sucking the oxygen out of the financial markets because it has to finance its largesse, its entitlements, its growth, its overbearing manners, its 8,000 regulations, new regulations per year. That money, you have a finite supply of money unless you print money. And if you print money, you have inflation.
Right.
There's a finite supply of money, and if the money is going to government for all this nonsense, then the money is not available in the private sector, either for jobs or for investment or to purchase land, property, or houses.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is tied in. Until the government really gets its financial act together, you're going to see, unfortunately, the drag that you've seen in residential, that's separate from land, in residential real estate. You know, it's frustrating to me sometimes to talk to people who don't get the connection. I mean, somehow they think that you can continue to grow government, you can continue to increase taxes, which is really a diversion of private money to government for its growth, and still have the money left over to right this economy. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen with any aspect of the economy, and it's certainly not going to happen with the real estate puts land to the side aspect of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So people have to understand that if you want more money chasing real estate, if you want more money, if you want your potential buyer of your house that right now you're underwater on, to have the money to purchase your house at a price that's going to get you out from your mortgage and hopefully put some money in your pocket, that money has to come from somewhere, and the only place it can and should come from in the United States of America is from the government. And I don't mean through a government check. I mean through the decrease in expenditures related to government. And that brings us to entitlements. Okay? The entitlements, listen, the entitlement situation in the United States right now is akin to the population is the guy who's rowing the boat. They've tied a big, thick rope around their neck. They've attached one end to a cinder block, and they've thrown it over the side of the rowboat. Okay? It's just a question until that cinder block hits the end of the rope and you get pulled into the water.
Right.
That is what's going on. And entitlements are exactly what the name implies. They are perceived rights, if you will, of certain folks to the money of government, which is the money of all the other folks.
Right.
Okay? It is in essence a redistribution of wealth.
Oh, right.
And it distorts the market. It distorts finances. And it is the precipitator of all the things that we've talked about. I mean, if somebody is listening to this program or reading your blog, and they're sitting there and they have a house they bought for $300,000, they have a $250,000 mortgage on it, including their home equity line, which they may or may not have, and that house was just appraised for $200,000. The reason is the growth of government, the sucking of government of the financial oxygen out of the economy to finance its growth, and the redistribution of that money in the form of entitlements, period. That is just 2 plus 2 is 4. Now, maybe they agree with it. Maybe they think that's wonderful, in which case, more power to them. I happen to disagree with that. And entitlements have to be brought under control, And I read what folks on the left and progressives try and use as subterfuge for getting down government spending. Let's cut defense. Let's tax the oil companies. Let's reduce their benefits and their incentives. Let's tax the wealthy. I mean, this is all a really popular thing, which the left loves to play on in the form of class warfare. But you know what? We're all in the same boat. I don't care if you're Mr. Wealthy, or you're Mr. Struggling to get by, feeding a family of 4 and having to rely on food stamps to help you do it. We're all in the same boat. And I'll tell you what, we're all going to sink or swim together. And people need to understand that until you get entitlements under control, and I mean by decreasing them.
Right.
There is no
because that is a government expenditure.
Yes. Well, it's a huge government expenditure. Look, right now everybody's talking about this $14 trillion debt.
Yeah.
What people need to understand is, number one, you have what's called deficit. Deficit is the amount of money the government spends in an annual time period that's over and above its revenues. That is the budget deficit. That's annual. Then you have primary national debt. That is the cumulative effect of deficits up or down on national debt. That's the $14 trillion number that everybody's heard from every news source in the world. But what a lot of people don't understand, and what the government tries really hard not to talk about, is the other approximate $108 trillion. Let me repeat that number. $108 trillion in unfunded liabilities, which come from, i.e., unfunded government pensions that have been promised to federal and state employees. Number 2, which we're starting to get a handle on. Number 2, Social Security. Number 3, Medicaid. Number 3, Medicare. Or number 4, Medicare. Those 4 things, there are others, but those 4 things are the lion's share of that $108 trillion, which is the 800-pound gorilla in the room of future finance. And this needs to be cut literally in half. It needs to be cut by 60%. If people don't believe my numbers, go to the Congressional Budget Office. Go to the GAO. Go to the Social Security Administration site. This is the government's numbers. These are not my numbers. Okay? And they trust me, they're not telling you everything. So what they are telling you should scare the living whatever out of you. And the only way to get this down is to start working on it right now. Every day that goes by is literally tens of millions, in some cases hundreds of millions, in interest on this debt. As everybody who has a credit card and is overspent on it, who's listening to or reading this blog, knows, at a certain point in time, you get to a place where you can't pay down the debt. There's just simply not enough money to do it. You're just paying interest on the debt, and we're fast approaching that point, and it's accelerating exponentially. The roughly $108 trillion plus the unfunded liabilities, the future, per the government itself, coupled with the $14 trillion in actual primary national debt that everybody hears about. If you add those two together and you divide by the 350 million people in the United States, and then you divide that by 4, because we're going to use an average family of 4 here. Jelani, do you know what the average debt per family is of all the obligations of the United States of America? What is do you know what they owe as a citizen of the United States? $1.1 million. $1.1 million. Now, I don't think there's many families of 4 who are listening to or reading this blog that can, would, or want to write a check for $1.1 million to the United States government for the privilege of living here.
Just to break even.
I just don't believe there's a lot of people jumping up and down who want to do that. Nonetheless, that's the math. 2 plus 2 is 4. Just do the division yourself. If you take the $14 trillion debt, the primary debt, it comes out to $46,000 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. Over $130,000 for a family of 4. That's just the primary debt. Now add interest to that. I mean, people know how long it takes to pay off a $140,000 mortgage on their house.
Yeah.
It takes 30 years.
Right.
These are scary facts, but they are facts. People need to understand them. They need to continue to come to conclusion on them. They need to accept them, and I think they need to then make the next step and understand there's only one way to get this under control, and that is to A, stop it, and B, decrease it. Stop spending.